Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, John, I've put in my, how many ever miles today. I don't know I got this little foot tracker that tells me how many miles I put in during the course of a day.
Did you carry clubs?
I did not carry clubs. I'm not willing to pack the mule, or so to speak, but I tell you what, I am impressed with the kids who get out there and, a lot of them have carts these days, but I'm impressed with the kids that carry the clubs. That's a lot.
It's not easy for 18-0s.
No, because we're talking, 7 or 8 miles a lot of times by the time you get finished walking all that yardage out there. But yeah, I went, Barren County and Glasgow's girls were playing in the Region 3 girls golf tournament today at Indian Hills Country Club, I think is what it is, over in Bowling Green. The Glasgow Lady Scotties accomplished their mission that they've had since the beginning of the season.
They wore that label as a favorite all year.
Yep.
And played like it.
Yep, and they did. And even today, that course was really challenging because everybody, I think there were only a couple of players on all of the teams that probably shot their yearly average or course averages through the tournament. Landry Steenbergen was one of them. I think she shot 85 today. That was good enough to qualify for her state tournament.
That's great.
She missed by 1 stroke last year making the state tournament, so she fulfilled her ambition that she had for this season. So yeah, good for her. And Barren County's golfers, they never quite got to where they probably wanted to be from the beginning of the season. They finished with rounds comparable to their season throughout, but back to the Lady Scotties real quick. They actually shot above their averages, and I know they were all disappointed with it.
Do you have their scores?
Yes, I do have their scores right here. Nina McMurtry, who's I think shot in the 70s in every tournament so far this year, actually shot 85 today. And she missed a couple of putts on the last hole. They were irrelevant in the grand scheme of things.
They won the team competition easy, right?
Yeah, they won the team competition by 25 or so strokes. I mean, they were way out in front of everybody because they were consistent in their scores, as we talked about. She shot 85, but Grayson Flatt actually had the highest round for Glasgow. She shot 83. And then Lena Harlow shot 87, and Bailey Birdsell shot 92.
And most of the year, a couple of them are in the kind of, rather than in the 80s, they're in the 70s.
Yeah.
So it's almost 8, 9, 10 strokes higher.
Yeah.
And the course must have been tough today. I mean, the weather was perfect.
It was.
I mean, maybe even a little, it was actually perfect. It got a little warm in the afternoon, but it was good conditions and everything. But, Indian Hills is not an easy course, and it's not where it's not where the state is. The state is at Bowling Green Country Club. The other, country club, well, they've got 3 in Bowling Green, but Glasgow did what they needed to do. They're probably not. Who won the region individually?
Sydney McClanahan. She's a freshman from South Warren. Yep.
Yeah. Now, South Warren did not have a team, did they?
No, they only had 2 players. From what I understand, they have a group of middle schoolers, and their coach just decided that he was not going to try to put them out there this year. Let them play in their own events and that kind of stuff. And maybe they've done the Bluegrass Golf Tour events and maybe some other stuff, and as opposed to playing in some of the high school events. And so he just kind of saved it up. McClanahan, I think, is a freshman. His other golfer that he had out there, Ansley, I suddenly forgot her last name. She's a junior, I think. So I think he kind of looks at, there was no point in him putting his 7th graders out there or whatever grade they were in and putting them through that this year. Just let them improve, and then he'll have a team again next year. And, flip side of that, for the Lady Scotties, all 5 of the girls who played for them this year, Ava Grace Towle did not play in the tournament. She had injured her back, I think, last week at the Kentucky Golf Coaches Association's All-State Tournament. And so she didn't actually play today in the region. She's not going to be able to play in the state, I don't think, next week. But all 5 of them are seniors, so Bart Roberts is going to be scrambling to try to find some people he's going to be in South Warren's role come next year, maybe. And I don't know I've not seen any younger golfers out there for Glasgow, so I don't know what that looks like for them. And, that's not necessarily the case for Barren. I think they only have the 2 seniors, right? I believe it's Landry and Rachel Britt maybe is the other senior. Everybody else, I think, is underclassmen for Barren. So, I mean, they're bringing everybody back next year. So there's going to be some role reversals by the time we get back around the next season.
Well, I mean, that's and the other change in the format, well, they changed it last year. Only one team qualifies out of each region. Yeah, that was the controversial move that the state made last year.
Yeah.
So just Glasgow will go.
Yep.
But they easily win, too. It's not like there was a close call for, that was right next to them or whatever. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to Landry. And I know her parents and grandparents are got to be very proud of her and so forth. And it's nice, when on probably her biggest moment this year, it sounds like she played probably her best golf.
Yeah. And I talked to her after the match, and I'm going to, here shortly, I'll tell you what she said, and then I'm going to tell you what some of the Glasgow golfers said. I talked to her after the match, and, she felt good about how she played. It was one of her better rounds, just in terms of the score, especially on that course. She said she felt good about how she played, other than a couple of holes, basically in the middle, that she managed to overcome those and play pretty strong down like the last 7 or 8 holes, which kept her in there. Because – the thing about the golf is you can have a bad hole just can it doesn't end the match for you, but we see it over and over and over where golfers, they have a bad hole and they just can't let it go. And then it's one bad hole and then another one, another.
Right.
Next thing you know, you're out of contention. So she did a good job of overcoming the couple of bad holes she did have. So that was good for her. And then the Glasgow girls were talking about they were disappointed in their own individual rounds, but they were really excited because they did play well enough to accomplish the team goal that they all had set for themselves. And going in,
and they'll get another chance because they'll be playing in the state.
Yeah, and we have seen them, we've got Marshall County out there. I think it's Madison Central out there, Sacred Heart. Either Madison Central or Lexington Christian will not make it to the state tournament. Those are two of the teams in the top. So we're going to see them have an opportunity over next week. This will be Monday and Tuesday over at, as you mentioned, the Bowling Green Country Club. If they can recover, get their practice rounds in, get, I guess, right frame of mind going into that state tournament, they're going to be one of the threats to win the state. They're right now, I think they're somewhere in the 8 to 10 stroke range behind those teams. But as we saw today, the course can set up, and you never know what might turn out.
That's true.
So, they have that opportunity. But they were excited to win it. They really wanted to have won it last year when Abby Lee was a senior and they were all juniors. But they just didn't quite get over the hump last year. Barely missed out against South Warren. Had lost to South. They finished second 2 years in a row to South Warren. So, they looked at this and they said, South Warren, those players have graduated from South Warren. It's ours to win. And they approached it that way all year.
Well, it's great. I mean, it's great. I mean, what is it? 3 out of the last 4 years has been Barren or Glasgow? Is that right?
Yeah, so they've been
Barren won it back-to-back.
Yes. And so when there was the two teams, it was one of them made it each year, either because they won it or they finished runner-up. Mm-hmm. But when they changed that last year, then that was the first time one of them didn't make it.
Right.
But even though they still finished runner-up, they didn't make it to the state tournament. So, right, it had been several years, maybe 8 years in a row prior to last year, or 7 years in a row, where Glasgow or Barren made the state tournament, mostly because they had won the region.
That's true.
Real quick, also, the boys region tees off tomorrow over at Rolling Hills in Russellville. It's a lucky day for me, I'll put it this way, because Barren and Glasgow, Monroe, and Allen County are all teeing off together. They're playing together starting at 9:40 a.m. tomorrow. So I can just
makes it good for the reporter.
Yes, I appreciate them doing that for me. I know it has nothing to do with me, but it does make life easier because now I don't have to run all over the golf course. I can kind of stick with these guys and really kind of follow them as they go along during the course of the day, and I enjoy being able to do that.
I don't think either team is likely to win it.
Yeah,
but there's individuals off both Barren and Glasgow that's got a really good chance of qualifying for the state tournament.
Yeah, and Jameson Corman, of course, qualified last year for the state tournament as a freshman, and he's been shooting good rounds so far this year, and he's right up there.
Well, I mean, he played really well in the district competition last week.
Yes, he did.
I think Kyler Keeney shot like 35, and I think Jameson shot 33.
Yeah, that's right. And then Bo Shelton for Glasgow, he's right there. I think he shot 36 in that same thing. And Clay Pippins had some good rounds for Glasgow. As you mentioned, they're neither of the teams that we really pay attention to or have an eye on winning that region. I mean, anything could happen, but Bowling Green and Greenwood, I think, have just been the best this year, and Franklin Simpson's right there with them. as they have been in recent years. And those team scores, Glasgow's and Barren's best team scores are just not better than those. But as you mentioned, Jameson Corman, Bo Shelton, Kyler Keeney, those guys have shot rounds that put them in contention to compete maybe for the individual title. Or
at least to qualify.
Yeah. I mean, I would say right now all three of those guys would probably be disappointed if they don't qualify to make the state tournament because they've shot rounds good enough to be there. And I would imagine they're coming into that tournament tomorrow with that frame of mind. Just got to go out here, play my game, and I can make it to the state tournament.
Should have good weather again tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful week for the golf. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really is. And so, yeah, you can't knock that. Now, I don't know if you ever been over to Rolling Hills.
Never have.
It's an interesting course. It's not challenging in appearance, but they wouldn't have the region there if it didn't present some challenges. Because it doesn't have a whole lot of big hills.
Though it's called Rolling Hills.
Yes, even though it's called Rolling. Well, it's not called Rolling Mountains, I guess. So it's not like that. What is that hole 18 or whatever coming over at Barren River, or 10? I think it is. Whatever you come up the big hill, or it's not like 6.
That's 9.
9. That's it. Or it's not like 3 over there at Glasgow at Willow Oaks. Where you got to climb the hill to get up to the green. Yeah, it didn't look like it really had any quite like that when I was out there earlier because they had a boys regional preview that was played right at the beginning of the season, and our golfers played pretty well in that event over there as well. So it looks like it's a course that maybe favors if you can hit it long and just stay in the fairways.
Every course favors people who can hit it long.
Yeah,
there's never a disadvantage to hitting it long.
Don't you think though? Some people like overhit. Sometimes they drive that thing just too far, get themselves out of position, or you just don't.
And as long as it's straight, that's where you want to hit it.
I guess that's true.
Yep.
I will tell you this, though. Indian Hills, I think it's number 17. It has a fascinating hole because it has a bank on a dog leg that looks like you could race a car around it. It's like Talladega. The bank looks like Talladega. And there's a line of trees on one side, and I swear everybody thought they could hit it over the trees and get around the dog leg. No, it wasn't happening. If they hit it over there, it was just hitting the trees and going anywhere. It was kind of a tricky hole, I thought, whenever I was over there checking them out as they were trying to hit that.
I would not know. I don't think I've ever played Indian Hills.
Yeah, that's actually the only second time
I know
I've
I haven't
been
played
there.
it in the last 30 years.
Right.
So I probably haven't ever played it.
Yeah, that's only the second time I've been to Indian Hills, and I don't remember going back on that particular area of the course, probably because the people I was covering, they weren't in that area at that time.
Right.
But it was like I said, it was a challenging course. Rolling Hills will be a different animal altogether. The Barren and Glasgow tee off at 9:40. Should be interesting. Good luck to them.
Good luck to them, and congratulations to Glasgow girls and to Landry Steenbergen.
Yes, sir. All right, it's Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, we're going to start off with our general coverage of Friday Night Football by discussing the Glasgow Scotties' lopsided, I guess, win over Greenwood. I mean, it wasn't lopsided in the totality of things, but it was lopsided based on what I would have predicted the score to be ahead of time. The final was 37-16, and Glasgow, once again, in the first half, they just dominated a game and set themselves up in great position.
Jumped on one early.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a game that I think is probably a pick'em game. It could go either way, though, it's fair to say with Greenwood 5-0 going into that game, that many people, I think, may have felt that Greenwood may be a slight favorite there, but this is not the first time it's happened to Greenwood where they start off like that, and then Barron's knocked them off in the past too.
I think you've pointed that out the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. But it was surprising that Glasgow controlled this game from the get-go.
Yeah,
and just took it right to Greenwood. Now, in fairness to Greenwood, sometimes in the COVID year and things like that, sometimes you don't know who's playing, who's not. Their starting quarterback was out.
Yeah.
And, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But
They really struggled to throw the ball.
They did. I mean, that's in fairness to Greenwood, that's a big deal, but that's not Glasgow's problem. They took
Right.
they took advantage of it, and not only did they take advantage of that, they rushed it for 300 yards, and Greenwood has been giving up almost nothing on the ground.
Yeah, I think 64 was their average per game.
Right. So Glasgow puts up over 300 on the ground, and that's impressive. And Glasgow again has evolved to a running team, to be honest with you. I mean, they're not throwing it. They don't throw it 8-10 times a game anymore.
Yeah.
But they have such a diversity of running backs and things of that nature that they use so many players on that side of the ball, and then defensively is where they've made the big improvement since the first game we talked about, and even Russellville. But Russellville's explosive offensively. And, Glasgow shutting them down, I think it did help that they didn't have the quarterback. But still, this is a quality win for Glasgow.
Yeah, I think if anybody looked at the score, they would look at the score and they'd be surprised by the score to start with. But if they really broke down the stats, the thing that would really surprise them is the fact that Glasgow ran the ball so effectively against Greenwood. And that's the thing. If there was anything I would have picked out of the game that Glasgow would have to make adjustments, it would have been having to throw the ball. I would have predicted they were going to have to throw the ball to win the game. And they really didn't.
Nope.
Which is the part that was, I think, most shocking, at least for me, when I looked at the stats and looked at the results. And, it's kind of the interesting thing is that mixture of the ability to be explosive on offense without throwing the football. I think that is just unique in this day and age of football.
Well, they'll eventually have to.
Yeah.
There'll come a point in time where they have to, and, they'll have to make a throw when they have to.
Right.
When the running game is taken away from them, they'll eventually have to do that. And they've shown at times where they can. They definitely have the receivers to do so. Mm-hmm. But they have made a change philosophically. Now they actually ran the I formation a lot the other night. And they haven't run that forever either. So
yeah,
they kind of at times have the ability. And what it tells me, when you can just kind of change offenses right on the fly like they did last year, and then this year all of a sudden just come out and play a lot of the I formation, that means not only do you have talented kids, you got to have smart kids do that.
Right.
Because these things you just don't throw together unless you got kids who are capable of handling that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Jeff Garman is still the architect of the defense, and that seems to be working. And this year, John Myers is fully in control of the offense. And he likes that wing tee. He ran that wing tee at Monroe County when he was there, at Russellville when he was there. But the thing that also seems to be happening is that each week they are doing what I think a football program needs to do. And they're able to do it because, as you mentioned, the players they have, both talent and intelligence, that they just keep getting deeper and deeper into Myers' playbook. And so when a team is studying film on them, you can't pigeonhole them. Even though they're going to run the football on you, they're starting to show people more and more things that they need to be aware of. And that's got to be challenging for opposing defenses as well. I mean, obviously it is. I mean, they hadn't run the I don't think, at all this season. They go to Greenwood and they run the I formation. No way Greenwood looked on the film and said, hey, we got to stop the I come Friday night. They were focused on all those things in the wing tee. That's got to be focused on. And then we look down Glasgow's schedule. The next most challenging game probably on their schedule is Taylor County. I mean, and that's going to be interesting. That's a couple of weeks away, I guess 3 weeks away after fall break, I believe. And so, they're in a position to be in really good shape by the time they get to the end of the season.
No question about it.
Meanwhile, you mentioned Russellville has speed. You got to see that on Friday night, I guess, because
they've added a couple players since them and Glasgow play.
Yeah, because what is it?
Woodard.
Yeah.
From
Deandre Woodard is playing over there now.
From
Logan / Russellville.
Yeah. So he just got eligible last week, and he's been recruited last year at Logan as a Division I player.
Right.
Wide receiver and defensive back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's 6'4" wide receiver that can flat out. I mean, great athlete. Everybody's seen him play basketball. It's probably his better sport is football. So he just takes them to a different level.
Yeah. And, you're right. He was not playing then. And I don't know, is Baptiste also able to play now?
Starts on defense, yeah. They've got 9 fifth-year players.
Yeah. So, I mean, they they've added players since
Yeah,
they lost to Glasgow.
they're not typical Russellville. They're typical Russellville in terms of they got great skill positions, fast and so forth. What's a little unusual, especially for a small Class A school, is they got good-sized linemen.
Yeah, because I really felt like Barren would be able to, after what I had seen from them, I thought their linemen were good,
Right.
but I thought...
Well, Baptiste makes a big difference.
And I did not know he would be playing.
Yes.
And so I really thought Barren would be able to run the football effectively.
You would think, but Barren, they two big losses. I mean, I just can't tell you. It's not only losing the quarterback is a huge loss because he was also a really good defensive player too.
Right.
So you're losing when you lost him, you're losing two players. But Drew Fisher has not played for the last 2 weeks. And Drew Fisher was the speed in the backfield. So you have him and Bradshaw. Bradshaw's like the thunder, and he's like the lightning.
Yeah.
Drew's probably the fastest player we got. He and Aiden Miller, maybe Gage Allen, but Drew is a weapon.
Yeah.
And he has not played. And plus, he's also one of our better defenders. So with two spots, Bowie's loss at quarterback, and I really think Bowie's our overall, I think you can argue he's the best player we've got. Losing him and Fisher is 4 spots. And we have not got to 100 total yards the last 2 games. Did not get to 100 against North Laurel. And I don't think if we got to 100, is right at 100 against Russellville. And just have really, really struggled moving the ball with any consistency. And then Russellville, just the first 2 plays of the game was 2 touchdowns, 65 yards and 55 yards, on pass plays. And we didn't quit. We made Barren made a big fumble sack and fumble recovery and ran in for a touchdown. I think it was Cody Rito, but never really threatened to win.
Yeah, and the bad thing, we talked about this last week coming in once Bowie was out, that this is the meat of Barren County's schedule.
Yeah, it is.
Because this coming Friday, they host Central Hardin, start district play.
Be underdogs on every game we play.
Yep. And then, they got
North.
2 weeks after that, North Hardin, and then at Meade County, I think the week after that. And
finished with Allen.
Yeah, and finished with Allen. And so, and Allen picked up a win Friday night. They looked like they were
beat Franklin. Good win for them.
Yeah, I mean that was a district win for them. So you can always know that Brad Hood's going to get that team ready to go, no matter what adversity they face.
Seem to improve as the year goes on.
Yeah,
normally.
So yeah, Barron's entering the meat of this schedule, and Bowie's not coming back. They will get Drew Fisher back this Friday, I think. Right?
I think so.
And so they Coach Muse is in the position where he's going to have to try to figure some things out. And I don't know what he can figure out. I'm just not a football coach.
Well, I mean, you can put people in position to win. You can change offenses, like Glasgow's changed and things like that. But if the dudes on the other side are bigger and quicker than you are, there's so many chess pieces that you can push, and you just got to do the best you can.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be looking for competitiveness.
Yeah.
Are you competing? Are you are you in position to make plays? That's what you have to look for. And because football is the one sport that's more dominated, I think, at times by athletic ability than just pure skill.
Yeah.
And it can make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got the best athlete on the field in football and you can get them in the right position, they can make plays all the time. In most other sports, there's at least some skill component
right.
That may negate that sometimes.
And the great teams are skilled and
right,
more stronger and more athletic.
Yeah. So it's going to be tough, but yeah, I'm guessing Coach Muse is trying to.
Well, he won't quit.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna compete. They just hit a tough spot in the schedule, especially losing Bowie. And hopefully, fingers crossed, they don't lose anybody else.
That's true.
And that gives them an even better chance to compete. Were there other games around the area on Friday night that kind of stood out to you?
Well, Bowling Green lost another one.
Yeah, they did.
It's that's back-to-back, fairly wide margin of losses. Of course, they lost to private school in Bowling Green, Father Ryan, and then Boyle County, so it's not like it's disgraceful to lose them. I thought a good win for South Warren, going to Louisville Central and getting a win. I thought that's a very good win for them.
Yeah, because Louisville Central so far this year looks like the Louisville Central of old. They've been really good so far.
Monroe got their first win, beat Todd Central.
Yeah, that one surprised me a little bit. I thought Todd was playing pretty well headed into it. So, good for Coach Pettit and his guys for figuring out a way to get a win. It's been a challenge for him. Then we mentioned Metcalfe County last week. I think they lost Peyton Dial, their quarterback.
Right.
So, they've had a lot riding on this season.
They shellacked Evanston. Evanston's way down.
Yeah, they really are. And then I didn't even check Greens County's score.
They beat Clinton like 62-6.
That's right.
Clinton's down.
That's right.
Clinton's way down.
Yeah, so it's things are kind of shaping up rather interestingly over there. I didn't really. There were other games around the state. There were probably big games. I didn't pay as close attention to those this past Friday.
No, not a lot. I mean, St. X beat Trinity. That's normally a highlight game.
Yeah, Trinity is apparently finally hit a down year a little bit.
They're 0-6, but they're still probably top 15 in the state.
Right.
I mean, they really are.
Yeah, because they've played a killer schedule.
Yeah, they played 4 out of state teams and lost to Mail and St. X close games.
Yeah. And some people have Mail circled as a team to beat this year, and they may be in 6A.
Yep.
I guess no shame in that.
Nope.
But they do play a brutal schedule. They're kind of like Bowling Green. They play a brutal schedule.
By not really their choice always. You just can't.
Yeah.
People are not going to just sign up to play them.
Yeah. So, Bowling Green lost again. They have a losing record for the first time, and I don't remember how long.
And they got South Warren next, I believe.
Yeah, and so – but back to the Boyle County thing. The week before, I believe Corbin beat Boyle, and a lot of people think Corbin is a team to be reckoned with as the season goes along.
It's another tradition-rich school.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about the high school football you can think of?
Nope. I mean, it's amazing. We've got already halfway through the schedule.
I know. Yeah, because we have the October 1st game coming up this Friday, and then we have fall break.
Four regular season games.
Yep. Amazing.
Yep.
It's just flying through. All right. It's Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, we're not halfway through the NFL or college football season, but we are deep enough into it that some interesting things are starting to turn up. I will say that. We'll start off with college football. Were you impressed by Kentucky's win over South Carolina?
No.
So all of this effort to improve the offense for the Wildcats, and they still just aren't getting there in terms of offense.
I think QK is good.
Yes.
I would put them in the top 25, barely.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are or not. I haven't seen the polls today. But I do see some red flags. I do not think they are as good offensively as they hope to be.
Yeah.
It kind of looks familiar.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, now they got a great offensive line. They'll have probably have 2 first-round picks off that line.
Mm-hmm.
Their running attack, is if they can hold on the ball, they've got the fumbleitis right now. But Rodriguez and then the other one, Smoke, are really, really good. I mean, Rodriguez is probably another NFL draftee.
Yeah.
I love their receiver, Robinson, who was originally at Franklin County, then went to Nebraska. I think he's an NFL player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% all in on the quarterback.
Yeah.
Because they should be, with the way they block and the way they run the ball, and with that really good receiver, they should be wearing it out through the air. And they have not thrown the ball very well lately.
Well, and traditionally speaking,
I kind of think there's almost a slight curse over the passing deal too. I think Stoops wants it to be there, but I also think he loves his defense so much that he likes to shorten the game and the toughness of running the ball and so forth.
Right.
And so I think oftentimes they're out of rhythm throwing the ball. And to be honest with you, the kid from Penn State, their quarterback, Will. I forgot his last name.
Yeah,
Will Chavis or whatever.
Yeah.
He wasn't the most accurate thrower at Penn State. In fact, he was more known for his running ability.
Yeah.
So I'm just not – I've got to see it see how it works when they're down 2 touchdowns in the third and fourth quarter. Do they have that ability to come back? I'm not sold on that. I do think they're good. I think their defense can be really good as well. But you still have to score enough points in today's football to win, and I'm not 100% sure.
Well, and traditionally speaking in football, if you can run the football and you have a good offensive line, it's supposed to set up play-action plays, which usually sets up big plays.
Right.
But they don't seem to be able to execute those particular kinds of plays.
outside the first couple games.
Yeah.
They were getting big chunk plays early.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that lately. So.
Well, and it is curious, but I'm with you on the Mark Stoops thing. I mean, maybe his bread and butter is so much defense. He's like, we can't air it out. That's going to make my defense look bad. Because you're going to give up points if you air it out.
Now, maybe he's just my perception is that I know he doesn't call the plays on offense, but he seems to be a coach that's got his hands on a lot of things.
Yeah, he might hit the button on the headset and go, no.
Right. He just seems to be, and I don't blame him. It's his team. He do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we'll find out more. They got Florida coming up.
Yeah, and Florida's
another
fascinating team.
They don't throw it a lot either very well, but man, they're another kind of like Kentucky, a power running team. They just do it differently.
Yeah. Meanwhile, were you impressed by Louisville's win over Florida State?
First half, I mean, they were up 31-7, I believe, or 31-14 at halftime, and never scored another point, and allowed Florida State to have a shot to come back and win. They had the ball, and Louisville had an interception to ice the game. But if you asked me before the season, would I take being 3-1? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And looking back, if you just kind of go back, the Ole Miss loss is not a bad loss.
Ole Miss offensively is absolutely one of the best.
And in a weird way, they held them to 40-something points. It's 40-something to 23, and that's not actually too bad.
Yeah, they looked like a rout at the time, but as you've seen Ole Miss's offense go along, it's really not.
Yeah, and they played Eastern 5 days later, and they just beat Eastern. They didn't look good.
Right.
Good win against Central Florida, 42-35.
So
and going, I know Florida State is wounded. They're 0-4, but it's still at Florida State, and they still have dudes down there. But I guess what's frustrating is to jump out and be so impressive, to have 31 points and never score in the second half. That takes a little bit of the luster off. But still, it's a good win for them.
Well, and you mentioned that Florida State is still Florida State, and they have dudes. That is a team that Louisville just has, since they've been in ACC, they've been better than several times and lost to them.
And won. I mean, they haven't been.
True.
I mean, they haven't just been totally shut out by them. But they lost. They lost a big lead a few years ago, and Florida State came back and won. But I just grew up in my life growing up. Florida State was like Alabama today.
Yeah.
I mean, with Coach Bowden, they were I loved watching them play growing up.
Right.
I mean, just loved watching them play because they put up points and they were aggressive and so forth. So I still have that mindset. You beat Florida State in football, that's pretty good.
Well, and Florida State was like one of those programs that was a kind of an early adopter to mobile quarterbacks as well. I mean, they, going all the way back, dadgum, I forgot his name now. He played for the Knicks. He didn't even go in the NFL,
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, they were kind of early into that whole running quarterback you had to handle.
They played. They had all different ways to win.
Yeah.
I mean, I was happy for Louisville. I mean, UK won, and then you got Western.
Yeah.
WKU.
Were you impressed by the loss?
I don't. Yes and no. I mean, losing 33-31 to Indiana, and Indiana was a top 20 program at the start of the year.
Right.
Lost to Iowa and lost to a good Cincinnati team. Mm-hmm. So Indiana is supposed to be a bowl eligible team. Going to be a bowl eligible team. It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah.
I mean, 33-31, and obviously it's competitive, and obviously Western's proven they can score on anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody. But could they have won? Yeah, they could have won. And there were some, things that I was happy for Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Smith,
touchdown.
Yeah. Yes. Good for him to get back on the field.
Yeah, and scored a touchdown on national TV. Happy for him on that little swing pattern out. So happy for him. I wish Western would have gone for it on their 50.
Yeah.
With, 6-7 minutes to go in the game rather than punt it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were down at the time and they only needed 1 yard. And I'm just I understand why he kicked it, but if the strength of your team is your offense,
yeah,
and you're playing a Big Ten opponent in your own home in front of a sellout crowd, I think that's the time to go for it.
Yeah.
And I was a little surprised because normally if you're going to swing it or throw it 50, 60 times a game, you got an aggressive mindset anyway.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's not like you're just, barely ever throwing.
You're not doing the Mark Stoops.
Yeah, I mean, you got an aggressive mindset. And so I was shocked that they didn't go for it.
Yeah. I think the thing about that game was it felt like Western was always almost there but never could make the play they needed to make.
Well, that would have been one of the plays.
Yeah. And so, with I think it was the turnover where they had an opportunity earlier in the game, and they played almost like they didn't believe they could win against Indiana in some ways, even though they played with Indiana the whole game. It's like Indiana always was they were never in control, but Western could never take full advantage of anything Indiana did.
Well, they never got ahead.
Yeah.
They started off behind 14-0.
Yeah.
So they were kind of climbing to get back in the game. And to be honest with you, it was hard to watch a little bit of the first half. The referees were, slow, a lot of penalties.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff kind of took some of the momentum away. But quarterback's really good, and his friend that came with him from Texas, that dude is a good receiver.
Yeah.
The
transfers are legit.
They are legit. Of course, the whole team's transfers.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Western's about 80%. You can't even. Now, he did make a good point when I was earlier in the year when I'm not a big fan of your whole team being transfers, but he felt like I was listening to him talk about it that because of the transfer portal and everybody got the extra year, that you're going to be really stacked up in terms of your freshman and sophomore class are going to be because everybody can take the year over.
Right.
That this is a way to kind of even out the class because these guys have come in for 1 year and they're gone.
Right.
So maybe that's the philosophy, which is fine.
Well, I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, you're talking about Tyson Helton talking about using the transfer portal.
Right.
And there are things that are going to come from the 2020-2021 seasons in terms of the makeup of teams and the transfer portal activity that I kind of suspect when we hit 2022-23, a lot of that stuff's going to kind of revert back to the way it was. There's just so much fluidity. Mm-hmm. Plus, last year, the choices that the Big Ten made and the Pac-12 made in terms of their schedules and some of these smaller conferences not really even playing, that there were people out there looking for an opportunity to play. And it's just kind of led over, to the next year. That transfer portal opened up in such a way that it probably will cool off at some point in time. Right. Well, we may just be in a period of anomaly.
Well, Western's second best receiver is the Oregon transfer.
Yeah.
If not the best. And they've got Louisville transfers. They got people everywhere. Louisville's, U of L's two starting safeties are transfers from Norfolk State was one, and another one was from I think Marshall or something like that. So, they've got them too.
Yeah, and so it's just I feel like that this 2-year window has led us to believe that things are going to be different going forward, and they may not actually be.
Eventually, you've got to go get freshmen and develop your own eventually, and and add a few of the portal players.
Right.
And eventually, that will settle back in. But this is what threw everything off was the portal. The popularity of the portal, plus the free year everybody was given.
Yeah.
Everybody was just given a free year, and that just really makes it tough to have a roster.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point by Tyson Helton because it's not one I thought of. I actually had not heard that. I had not seen that interview.
Yeah, I thought it made a lot of sense. And his brother was on the sideline too.
Oh, was he?
And his father.
Oh.
Yes, his brother, the USC Clay Helton
former
was
USC coach. Yeah.
Former. Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, that's good. The family was able to get together.
So, Western put on a good show. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had a great crowd. It'd be nice for most of the crowd to stay a little bit later. I just watched it on TV as third quarter you start seeing more empty seats, but it was
that's kind of disappointing too. Because
it was a little disappointing.
It was a game that was.
But that's what when WKU decided to go all in on football and hiring aggressive coaches and things like that, that's what they needed. You need an opponent like that to come in occasionally, and you need an offense in which people are excited about watching, and you need a competitive game against those, which they have, which they got, and that is how it's going to be sustainable to me for WKU. That type of stuff right there.
Well, and the rest of their schedule is pretty much Conference USA. I don't think I'm not sure that they have any other non-conference games, but the rest of their schedule is such that if they keep performing at least offensively at the level
they don't go to Michigan State this year.
I believe they do. You might be right about that. So, but if they could perform offensively at the level they have, they look good against their Conference USA foes, and I'd say they look good as a challenge against Michigan State.
They will, because they can score.
Yeah,
they definitely can score. And they'll be an attractive. At the end of the year, if a bowl game wants somebody that's going to be fun to watch, I mean, I would rather watch that how Western plays than some other teams play.
Yeah. So I mean, they're back where they need to be. I agree.
I like. It seems like to me they're back on the track that I think is most sustainable for long term. Not only for Western to make it profitable, but fun to watch and have good crowds. This is how you do it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in the NFL, we had a couple of games that I thought were pretty interesting. One of which, I'll just start off with that Rams-Buccaneers game. I mean, you begin to wonder, after seeing Matt Stafford play the first 3 weeks with the Rams, how bad is the Lions organization?
Yes.
I mean, because Sean McVay and those people at the Rams were right with their scouting report. They looked out there and said, what quarterback can run this offense that we want to run the best that we can get? And, I mean, they gave away their guy, got the Lions guy, and he is just cooking them up there in Los Angeles.
He has just been stranded, basically, in Detroit for 10 years.
Especially ever since Calvin Johnson was gone. It's been just
wasting his talent, to be perfectly honest with you. And you hate to talk bad about anybody, but the switch of quarterbacks is just Sean McVay is, of course, the coach of the Rams. He appears to be this type of person that has such an imagination in terms of his offense. He's at a level offensively with his mind, what he wants to do, that very few people can get to.
Right.
And I think he was frustrated over the last couple of years that his former quarterback, just couldn't get there.
Right.
Couldn't make the reads, couldn't make the plays, couldn't make the throws.
Well, couldn't stand in the pocket and try to deliver the pass.
Though he got him to the Super Bowl.
He did. Well, Todd Gurley got him to the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, he still had made plays.
He did. He actually played well in the playoffs.
Right. But Matt Stafford, he's a top 5 quarterback. You can say he can make all the throws. He's smart, and it looks like the game's fun now.
Yeah. You're talking about the innovation of his offense. There was a play, they ran a bubble screen for Tyler Higbee, and he was on the outside. He's a tight end. Yeah. He was on the outside. So basically they asked 3 wide receivers and somebody else to kind of block down, and they ran that bubble screen. And that's you don't see very many tight ends lined up on the outside of the receivers, and then for them to run a bubble screen for a tight end. And he just comes up with all different ways to put the ball in the hands of his best players.
If they can avoid major injuries, they, to me, may be the favorite.
Yeah.
Because defensively they're really good.
Yeah, I mean, their defense was the best defense in the league last season.
Right, and now they got the quarterback, they got the receivers, running backs okay, but, that'll be fine. And they're hungry. Mm-hmm. It almost seems like the stars are kind of lining up. It's a long season, though. You never know what can happen. I mean, Kansas City will be good again at the end of the year. They're struggling right now, but they'll be fine. Tampa's Tampa. They didn't play good, and they had several players out, and they were competitive with the Rams. So they'll be tough at the end of the year. And so the Rams are not. They may not even win their division.
True.
It's the best division in football.
Yeah, it is.
Arizona, Seattle, and San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the makeup of their team.
Yeah, and then the other game, going back to the Lions, that was interesting to me, just right off the top, was the Ravens game against the Lions. I mean, they're missing 7 defensive players, and I might mention something about that at the tail end of what we're about to discuss. The Lions are not good. The Ravens looked not good, but out of all of it, we got the longest field goal in history that hit the crossbar.
66 yards by Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, he is the best kicker in the NFL, and sometimes, well, he certainly looks like the best kicker.
No, I think he
and sometimes I think we forget how important having a good kicker is. And each week in the NFL, when you see guys miss extra points or give me field goals, I mean, Justin Tucker is a rock for that team.
Well, their kickers are like EMTs. You don't pay attention to them until you need them.
Yeah.
And you know, these kickers are oftentimes made fun of.
Uh-huh.
But they win more games. They'll win 3 or 4 games a year for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot win the Super Bowl without one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something you got to have.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, you don't expect to win on a 66-yard field goal, but he's got that everybody knows anything keeps up with it. He has that capability. Now, what's amazing to me in football, though, in the NFL, if you give just like last night, if you give Aaron Rodgers just 33 seconds, just to get the field goal range, they gave Lamar enough time just to get the field goal range. So if you're only up less than 3, I don't think you can play soft coverage anymore because these guys are too good.
Yeah.
Because they only got to get 30, 35 yards. And then, I mean, the kicker last night for Green Bay made it for 53 to win it.
Yeah.
So, now if they have to go all the way down and score a touchdown with no timeouts, it's totally different.
Right.
But these teams are, to me, defensively, are playing too soft and allowing these great players. I mean, Lamar Jackson's a great player, too. He doesn't throw it as well as some other quarterbacks, but he's still a great player.
Yeah.
You know, they converted 4th and 18 to get it in position. No. And last night, it was just too easy for Aaron Rodgers. Just too easy. I mean, for a guy that – I mean, I could never make those plays, but it was just too easy for him.
Yeah.
And you just cannot allow – you got to rush the quarterback. I would think you almost have to play it just like normal. Mm-hmm. You just got, if all they need is a field goal, well, if you give up a touchdown, what difference does it make?
Yeah, I mean, because if they get within 50 yards, they're probably going to hit the field goal.
That's
The
exactly
game's
right.
probably going to be over either way. Might as well give it the touchdown.
Those guys are that good.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that, about the soft coverage thing is it leaves the middle of the field open, but with the ability to run that hurry up, get it, and then spike it and kill the clock without having to call a timeout. A lot of these guys, when you talk about the best quarterbacks with like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and those guys, they can make these plays and still get the ball without any timeout.
That's correct.
And it's just, you're right. I mean, that's kind of the gambles that sometimes teams take, that when they play conservative versus when they're aggressive is the part that I think that there's an old thinking and new thinking that quite mesh.
It's an old thinking where you obviously don't want to get beat over the top.
Uh-huh.
But if 3 beat you, what difference does 7 beat you?
Yeah.
So you might as well just.
I mean, they're going to talk about you either way, so you might as well pick whichever poison you want to take.
That's exactly right.
And and I think I think out of that first week, this past weekend, one of the things that stood out to me. After the first week, a lot of people were kind of beating on Josh Allen a little bit. They decided maybe he, last year was an anomaly. Man, he was great yesterday.
Great. Well, Jimmy G, he goes down now as losing the game last night. That's why rating quarterbacks is such a joke. I mean, he took his team down the field and scored with 33 seconds to go.
Scored too quickly, really.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, and now all of a sudden, he'll go down as an L. Can't get a game-winning drive when he really did get a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
And Detroit is 0-3, but they've actually – I'll give that coach credit. I thought he was kind of silly, to be honest with you, before the year, a lot of things. But his team has played hard.
Yeah.
They led at halftime against Green Bay. Mm-hmm. They made an incredible comeback on opening night against Kansas City to have a shot. And then they led Baltimore until the very end. I mean – in fairness, I understand, you play soft cover. You don't want to play too soft, but But getting beat on a record field goal attempt from 66 yards just doesn't really happen very often.
Yeah,
I kind of feel bad for them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because that ball, once it hits that crossbar, it could go either direction.
Yeah,
that's just the bounce of the ball, quite literally, and there's nothing the Lions can do about that. So that one may be. We may want to give them a break on that. But that Packers 49ers game, both of them were playing passively.
Yes.
Neither one of them was playing aggressively, and one of them was going to lose because they were playing passively.
Right.
And they both probably should have been playing aggressively at the end of those games. And I don't know, going back to that Rams-Bucks game, when I watched that game yesterday, what I thought to myself was, this might be the NFC Championship game, and there may be two other teams that can get there
Rams.
with them. The Rams and Bucks. I still think the Packers could get there as long as you got Aaron Rodgers,
I agree
even
with
though
that.
the rest of the team is a bit of a mess. And I actually think the Saints could get there too because their defense is good. They just need Jameis Winston to be competent when the time comes. And sometimes that's what you're worried about.
Yeah, I don't know about them.
I do think their defense is good enough
Their
to get
defense
there.
is good enough.
They may be in the same position the Rams were last year where the defense was good enough. You don't know how it's going to go with the offense.
Right.
Anything else from the NFL that struck you from Sunday or from the weekend?
No, football was great all weekend.
Yeah.
Loved watching it.
Yeah. I bet you the Vandy fans didn't enjoy their day on Saturday.
Boy, they're just not. That game was over. First quarter, 35-0?
Yeah, what was the final? 62-0. Georgia beat them 62-0.
Starting quarterback only played the first quarter.
Yeah, that was. I'm
thinking, there's more Georgia fans there than Vandy fans at Vandy. I'm serious.
Yeah, it's but yeah, that was a sad day for the Vanderbilt faithful.
But they get their SEC check at the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's what apparently they're playing for at this particular point in time because they're certainly not playing to be competitive in the league. Especially when they're adding Texas and Oklahoma coming up.
Tells you how good a coach James Franklin was.
Yes, absolutely.
He won there.
Yeah.
And then made the right move to go to Penn State. He knew it wasn't sustainable, but he won at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing when you look back on it. There were a couple of other big events over the weekend. The Ryder Cup, the USA won that.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, they were – talk about control from start to finish. That's exactly what the U.S. golfers were in the Ryder Cup. And I saw that a lot of people really was picking the European group to win it going in. But
because they won it last 2 years ago, and I think they've won 4 out of the last 5.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
But this is a kind of a different American team. Phil Mickelson, and who has really never played well in it. Tiger Woods, who's not played well in it.
Yeah.
All those guys are kind of gone and replaced by really the 30 and under. Mm-hmm. And in fairness, the Europeans had the best player in the world, John Rahm, is rated number 1, but the Americans had 2 through 9. Mm-hmm. So we kind of had the better players
right.
playing at home and with young guys, and they were fired up and jumped on them early and just wasn't even close.
It was kind of interesting because this particular group of USA players looked like they were serious about it. And I think a couple of times in that run where they didn't win, I thought they didn't have players that looked all that serious about it.
I don't know if it wasn't serious. It's just I don't know if they were all in.
Yeah.
I
guess that's what I mean by not serious about it.
Yeah, this group, of course, it helps. Once you take a lead, it's a lot of it's perception. Mm-hmm. They must be all in because they're winning.
Yeah.
Well, you can be all in and losing.
Yeah. You just weren't as good.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Making birdies makes it a little bit better.
Yeah. And on that front of all in but not winning, we have the Cincinnati Reds who have won 4 in a row, but man, the Cardinals have just been rolling.
16 in a row.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And the Reds were in control. The last time the Cardinals lost was actually to the Reds.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago or whatever it was. But the Cardinals have just been on fire. And once again, it looks like a heartbreak season for Reds fans.
They had a good year. They was right there, and when they're fighting to the very end, but it just came up a little short. Mm-hmm. The hitting has been overall good all year. I think some of the starting pitchers that they were pitching so well earlier in the year kind of wore out. Remember, 60 games is all they played last year.
Yeah.
So this is a big adjustment for a lot of the pitchers.
This is actually the best they've done for the whole of a season in a long time.
Yeah, they made the
really.
playoffs last year. It was a shortened season.
Yeah, in that 60 games, I guess.
Yeah.
It doesn't count in a lot of ways. I mean, it probably counts for Red fans, but in the grand scheme of things, traditionally it doesn't really count. It's kind of like a scab year or whatever. Who you got? You think's going to win the World Series? Have you settled upon that yet?
I think the Dodgers again. I mean, they got dominant pitching. Dominant pitching. The trade for Schwartzer and then the shortstop, now second baseman, Trey Turner. I mean, they're just anything can happen in baseball. I mean, San Francisco's still ahead of them. So, but that looks like to me the dominant team.
Yeah, they've made the moves necessary and seem to be playing pretty well at this stretch. It's
hard to win back to back though.
Yeah, it is.
But if you ask me if I had to place a wager on which team, I'd take them.
Yeah. You're not feeling the Yankees or anybody like that?
I don't think the Yankees' pitching's good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's a National League team to win it, and it's probably a Dodgers win. I would guess the Giants can challenge them just because.
Well, the Giants are in first.
Yeah.
They've got 100 wins, so they've done something with it.
Yeah. They certainly won the regular season.
St. Louis is on 116 in a row.
Yeah, sometimes it's about when you catch fire, not
right.
where you started from. So, I mean, maybe that's the way it's going to work
It starts
out.
next week.
Yep. You looking forward to that?
Yeah, I'll watch playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't watch every inning, but yeah, I'll watch playoffs.
All right. Well, it should be good. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I hate it for the Reds fans, but maybe better luck next year. Maybe it'll work out for them. This has been a Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.